Hello folks, I'm Alex, this is Alex Unabridged, and today it's time for my thoughts on Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. So welcome back to the channel if that is the case. Yes, time for some more of my thoughts on another book. This time this is one of my 20th century American and British horror reading project picks, and that is of course this one. Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury from 1962. This is Bradbury's dark and beautiful tale of sinister carnivals, magical carousels, and a timeless battle between good and evil. I will keep away from major spoilers in this. I'll always try and avoid, spoilers in general. But if you haven't read it and you want to read it and go in somewhat blind to it, then do feel free to click away from the video now and come back when you're done. So what is this about then? This takes us to Greentown, Illinois, I think, which is a quiet, nostalgic community, and it's set kind of just before Halloween, and we meet two 13-year-old best friends, Will and Jim. It's Will Halloway and Jim Nightshade. Will and Jim are kind of a perfect balance for each other. Will's cautious and thoughtful, and Jim's kind of a bit more daring and seeks adventure, even of the sort of dangerous kind. And when Cougar and Dark's Pandemonium Shadow Show rolls into town, it brings with it weird wonders and some dark secrets. And the boys, along with Will's father, Charles, uncover the carnival's evil secrets, at the heart of which lies a mysterious carousel that can aid you forwards or backwards, but always at a terrible cost. So, what did I think of this one then? I have had this on my shelf for years, literally years, and had pretty high expectations for it, seeing as that I've really enjoyed what I've read of Bradbury's writing before. So did it live up to expectations? Mostly. I did really enjoy it on the whole. The atmosphere in it is fantastic. It has a real kind of autumnal sort of feel to it. It's like you can't go wrong if you're looking at this one for a Halloween-y type read. The way that Bradbury describes places and sensations, senses, things like that, really sucked me in to the setting in this, and the kind of the eerie quality of his prose works really, really well at conveying the kind of the magic and the malevolence of the carnival. What I would say, a note on this as a horror, it didn't feel much like a horror novel to me. I would certainly say it's more dark fantasy. There are definite horror elements for sure. There's eeriness, there's creepiness, there's kind of that sort of slightly horror tinged tension in it. Definitely that's there. There's definitely plenty of darkness, but it just didn't feel like a horror novel. As I say, it was definitely dark, but it certainly felt more like dark fantasy. I think the themes that are woven throughout it are the things that I value most about this. The ideas that Bradbury's exploring, the fear of aging, the temptation of eternal youth, battling your own darkness. Charles Halloway, Will's father, is kind of very much grappling with his own fears and insecurities about getting older. He is quite a bit older. I think he's like in his 50s, and so 13-year-old kids. So I guess in the 60s to have a 13-year-old and be in your 50s potentially is was less common. I guess today probably you see more folks having kids later on, therefore being in their 50s when their children are that sort of age. But he's definitely kind of feeling it. He's got those kind of fears about aging, and feeling disconnected from his son because of that distance in age. And I think his journey as a character is really interesting, and it's kind of I think it was his character I kind of connected with the most. Will and Jim are great though. They're really likable, and as I say, they make a really good pairing. They're really like balanced against each other. Will's caution versus Jim's sort of hunger for adventure and a bit of danger. The villains I really liked. They're great. Mr. Dark, who is the illustrated man, so he's covered with these tattoos that kind of move and change. He exudes a real sense of menace. He's smooth talking. He's the ringleader, and he's kind of quite charming but terrifying in kind of equal measure, really. And then there's a character called the Dust Witch, who I found really creepy. She's kind of a psychic character. She's blind, so she uses her powers, her psychic powers, to hunt down the boys and Charles as well. Yeah, all of the carnival members are unsettling, I think, and led by Mr. Dark. They definitely created a really good sense of kind of dread that kept me sort of turning the pages, kept me in it. Okay, let's talk about Bradbury's writing style. His prose is extremely poetic. He has a unique voice. His metaphors are extremely vivid. His imagery's both beautiful and haunting and somewhat melancholy. It's quite easy to lose yourself in some of the beauty of it, the beauty of his words. There is some absolutely fabulous description in here. But I'll admit in this that whilst in general I am a huge fan of his voice, of his style, his authorial voice, at times in this, the quantity of this kind of prose did slow the pace of the story just a bit too much for me. There are moments when the plot definitely takes a back seat to the language. There are some sections where it's essentially conversations between Jim and Will and Charles particularly, where it was just a bit too lyrical for me. I just found it a bit too much. For what I've read from him before, from Bradbury before, has always had this kind of prose style, but maybe not to the same extent in terms of there's always been some more straightforward sections to the writing that are no less powerful, I might add, than the poetic prose in his work. But those straightforward bits tend to help balance out the lyricism a little bit. And there's very little of that straightforward stuff in this Something Wicked for me. There are a couple of sections which I think are done really well. There's a scene in the library in the town which I think is done excellently. But because there's less of it and there's so much of this very lyrical prose in it, I did find myself getting a little bit bogged down in the poetry towards the end of the book. I think it was just a little bit of like Bradbury fatigue, maybe correct, and is how I'd describe it. But don't get me wrong, I love it. I do like his style a hell of a lot. And the poetic nature, in the most part, really gives the story like an otherworldly quality. There is some absolutely gorgeous writing in here. But yeah, as I say, it just maybe got a bit bogged down in its own beauty for me in a couple of places. But overall, I would say I enjoyed this a lot. It's a 4-star, I think I'll put it on at Storygraph as. I think I might have maybe connected with it generally a bit more if I'd have read it when I was younger, perhaps. I think this is a perfect book for, sort of 12-year-old lads. I mean, I'm middle-aged now, and I guess I ought to be able to connect with that kind of fear of aging. A bit more of the sort of Charles Holloway character, and I was more interested in his character, I think, in a lot of respects. But in all honesty, I don't really have that fear of aging yet. I don't, yeah, I can't really say that I've got that or have experienced that kind of fear. At least not at this stage in my life. I think maybe if I reread this, like maybe 10, 15 years down the line, or whenever I do finally experience that fear, because it will happen, let's face it, then I think, yeah, maybe I'll find new things in this. But yeah, despite the fact that I got a little fatigued with some of the prose, I do still love his style. It's a beautifully written story. It's imaginative and vividly told. It's, you know, got so much feeling to it. Bradbury's writing always has so much feeling to it. It's so human. And it's warm. It's a really warm way of writing. His voice is extremely warm. So will I continue to read more Bradbury? Absolutely. He is one of those authors that I do particularly value. I love Fahrenheit 451. I enjoyed a hell of a lot of the stories in The Martian Chronicles. I think that's where I really like Bradbury's work, as well as in short stories. And I do have The Illustrated Man on the shelves here, and I've also got Dark Carnival. And I've got his work in other kind of collections as well. So I will definitely keep going with Bradbury. His tone, the weight to his tone, the darkness often to his tone of writing, I really do have a lot of time for. And so yeah, I'll definitely crack on and keep going with more Bradbury. So that will do for me today, folks. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments, as always. Have you read Something Wicked This Way Comes? What did you think? Have you got any other favourite Bradbury novels or short stories you think I should read next? Thank you very much for watching, as always. I will be back with another video very soon, but from me, for now, that's ta-ra.